their own writing. Yeah, yes, you see. Even the Greek alphabet is not from Greeks. Yes. Even what you call a Roman alphabet, A, B, C, D, is not from Rome. It's not their own invention. Now we call that A, B, C, or A, B, C. Even, doesn't mean even what? Why you say A? Which the meaning of A or B came from where? Doesn't mean what? I mean, why does that mean nothing? Because we came from somebody else. Yeah, it's meaningful for them, but when you copy, you drop the meaning. It became just A, B, C. Yeah, do you see? But in fact, Kemet is here. This is a Kemet, the same country, Nubia, and this influenced all these civilizations, chiefly in writing, in spirituality, in papyrus, even paper. You don't, they wrote here with clay. You don't travel with a lot of clay, it's too heavy. Yeah. But Kemet, they write with a papyrus. So you have Greek papyrus, Roman papyrus, everybody in antiquity used Egyptian papyrus. Yeah.
667 BC. In Egypt, a new king is crowned. He is Djoser, the second ruler of Egypt's Old Kingdom period. Djoser would establish a reputation as a wise and pious ruler. Even 2,000 years after his death, he would remain the model Egypt's later pharaohs sought to emulate. The pyramid builders began their quest for architectural perfection at a place called Saqqara. It was there in the year 2667 BC that an enterprising young pharaoh named Djoser claimed the throne and commissioned the world's very first stone superstructure. His tomb project would solidify Egypt's standing as the world's most advanced civilization.
To find a whole lot of things, not only their steel smelting machines. The same year we found they had astronomical observatories 300 years before Jesus. It was found in Kenya at Namorotungo, where the Africans were plotting a whole series of stars and constellations. They built an observatory with several alignment points, and on the basis of those alignments, they built one of the most accurate of prehistoric calendars. And then fine anthropologists like Marcel Griol and German Deitelin went in West Africa and found the Dogon, an unusual people. Ogotomeli, one of their elders, sat down for 21 days non-stop, only stopping to sleep and eat, and spoke out several books. And then you find the African highly sophisticated. He is plotting star systems. The Dogon spoke of an invisible star, a white dwarf, which we had never seen in modern astronomy. They not only saw it, they plotted its orbit right up to the end of the 20th century, up to the year 1990. It's dead correct. They showed that although it seemed to be a tiny star, it was the heaviest type of star in our galaxy. Our machine showed that is dead correct. They said it had an elliptical orbit of 50 years around its parent star, Sirius A, and an orbit on its own axis. Our machine showed it had a 50-year orbit. We haven't caught up with the one-year orbit yet. They pointed to an object flashing and darkening, contracting and expanding within the region of Sirius B. The Einstein orbiting satellite found that 3.5 years ago. Do you know when the Africans found that? 5 centuries ago. They claim, you see, Hippocrates taking sections out of the work of earlier Egyptian writers without giving any credit to them at all. Pythagoras, the Pythagorean theorem was worked out long ago. Pythagoras spent 7 years, some people say 22 in Egypt. And he comes back with all this, even medical theories, and brings it all back to Greece and all the claim. All the great European scholars went to Africa. Thales of Miletus, Democritus, Pythagoras, Eudoxus. There's a whole list of them walking into Africa, picking up things from astronomy, geometry, medicine, etc., and going back home and claiming it to be theirs. Father of this and father of that, when they're the children. You go and look at their medicine. I spoke in Atlanta to the Center for Disease Control. Africans had aspirin before us. They were using Salix capensis, which is salicylic acid, the main active ingredient in aspirin. They were using tetracycline 14 centuries ago in Nubia. They found the yellow-green flash of tetracycline in Nubian bones 14 centuries ago. They only started using that antibiotic in America in the 1950s. They pioneered in several operations. They pioneered in the cesarean operation. Dr. Finch has written a fine thing on the cesarean. At the time when that operation was experimental in Europe, people like Dr. Felkin went into Africa and observed the Banyoro surgeons performing the cesarean, and the mother was hale and hearty after 4 or 5 days. No woman survived the cesarean in Europe in the 1870s. None. No woman survived. And they observed the operation, the way they stitched, the way they opened the belly, the kind of instruments they used. They observed they were using one of the instruments, the cautery iron, with such fantastic skill. It was very minor tissue damage that caused great ruptures in the European hospitals. They found that Africans were using both anesthetics and antiseptics in their operating theaters at that time, when in Europe, Lister only introduced antiseptics 2 years earlier than the witness of this operation, which the witness said must have been going on for quite a while, because the Africans were performing with routine skill what was then experimental surgery in Europe.
No wonder Mama sent me to college. No wonder she said, son, remember the powers in the knowledge.
They go to the border. Go there, you see it. Oh, right by the arch of Septimus Severus. And by the way, it's talking about an African emperor of Rome, Septimus Severus. You understand Egypt that much more when you consider that even the paper you use here to write your Greek letters in your fraternity and your sorority, where did it come from? Is it papyrus in Greece, any place? Huh? I ask you. Your first of your Greek so-called philosophers coming down, I ask you, where is Thales, your so-called first philosopher? And I ask you, you professor of philosophy here. How did you get the Greeks as philosophers? Where did Thales go to school? From Thales all the way down to Socrates. Socrates being the creation of Plato. From Socrates down to Aristotle, so-called pre-Socratian and post-Socratian philosophers. Where did they come to school? All of them came to Egypt in school except Socrates, because he's the creation of Plato. One out of them, because nobody can give you any report, no contemporary for Socrates. And then if that is so, if they are the first philosophers, and the first one is Thales, and Thales doesn't come to us before 600 BC, then you are going to tell me that there could be philosophy. No, that the Africans along the line had no philosophy, and yet they had nations, yet they had society, yet they had governments, they had concept about gods and goddesses, they had concept about death, life, death, and resurrection to the netherworld. Can you do that without philosophy?
Circular current. This is, of course, late pre-Columbian, before Columbus, but just about 50 years before Columbus. We also have something which has been checked out of something around 62 BC, where 7 American Indians seem to have been shipwrecked off the coast of Europe, and they were picked up by the Germans, the Suevians, and they were taken to the Romans. And
about 627 bishops before it arrived in Europe.
This is Cleopatra showing her in travail, that is labor. The pyramid rises to a height of 481.5 feet. It is built of 2.7 million blocks of stone. The smallest stone is 2.5 tons, and the largest stone is somewhere between 70 and 100 tons. If you were to take the intact masonry of the Great Pyramid, by the way, can you hear me in the back? I don't want you to miss any of this. If you could take all of the intact masonry of the Great Pyramid and cut it up into 1-foot blocks, you could build a wall that would circle 2/3 of the globe. And you know they built it without even using the wheel? They used to float 1,000-ton blocks of granite from Aswan 500 miles down the river, and they can't even do that today. The pyramid was oriented precisely to the 4 cardinal points. The base of the pyramid, the side of each base of the pyramid was 755 feet, 6 inches, with an average error of 1/10,000th. The casing stones that covered the pyramid were so finely jointed that you could not and cannot insert a piece of your hair in between the joints, even today, where they are still in existence. The area of the base of the pyramid is 13 acres. But it's real interesting. If you look at the height of the pyramid, it is, if you measure it, it is the radius of a circle that you can create by turning the base of the square base of the pyramid into a circle. And therefore you can find the square base by the area of the perimeter of the square base by 2 pi r. So that means they had built the constant, the geometric. There has never been anything like it in the world. That which has been forgotten.